Hey friends, David Miller, Los Angeles multimedia artist and creative. A few years ago, I did a video about why I closed my Etsy shop, and I had this big burning, GIF of Etsy go up on my Instagram. And subsequently, I reopened an Etsy shop, and I wanted to do this video of like why I reopened it, because essentially at the time, I had a lot of inventory of instant film prints of my art model photography, and try as I might to sell it on my own through Instagram and other venues. I think around the time of the COVID shutdowns, the idea of doing Zine Fest wasn't an option, and it turned out, from my point of view at the time, that there was no other market for these kinds of physical goods. So I had reopened a different Etsy shop, amassed a pretty big following, and got my pay level to what it used to be in my first Etsy shop. And you know what? I never made that video of why I reopened an Etsy shop, and I'm glad I didn't, because Etsy changed their policies. They nuked everything that was R-rated. And what has been made clear to me is that of the large online marketplaces where you could sell artwork, particularly, R-rated artwork, and I don't think my photography is anything that isn't what you'd find in a fashion magazine or an art museum, but anyways, eBay is the better alternative. And so I'm going to sing the praises of eBay for artists in this video. eBay is something I've used, since its inception, and if you do the apples and oranges comparison, eBay is vastly bigger than Etsy. It's much broader base around the world. I still kind of had this prejudice in my head that eBay was an auction site, and I think of all the times I've bought like car parts or something off eBay, just like little random electronic bits that I needed, and occasionally collectible stuff. But as far as like visualizing this being a storefront for my artwork, it didn't connect in my brain, especially since eBay's fees compared to Etsy are monthly and recurring. Etsy had, I think it was a 90-day cycle for your listings, and the listings were smaller price point than what it is to list something on eBay. Now, this is me not doing a lot of research about eBay. You can list 200 things for free. Beyond that, you've got to pay. And I think it's 35 cents a listing. But they have subscriptions that are monthly, and the very basic one allows you to open a store and list 1,000 items, and not mentioning that eBay frequently runs promotions where you can list extra. You can design your storefront, you can have coupons and sales and all that stuff that I had on Etsy. And for the price point of the basic store, I definitely am saving on all those fees that I feared and occasionally got when I listed, like 400 items in a month. Generally, what I list are things that I can print on demand using this handy little device, Instax Wide, so I'm not spending a lot of money on inventory until I actually need to make it for the customers. And the customer base that I've gotten for my work on eBay is generally exactly the same as the ones on Etsy. The thing with people who collect art model works is that not only did my shop get nuked on Etsy, but I think everybody who did anything remotely like what I do got nuked, because Etsy is trying to rebrand itself as an Amazon alternative, and it really doesn't have anything to do with handmade goods. It doesn't have anything to do with craftsmanship or artisanship. There's a lot of, mass-produced jewelry, watches, so on and so forth being sold on Etsy. That's fine. They can run their business the way they want. I am just so glad that I went to eBay, though. And I actually kind of envision my eBay growing significantly bigger than Etsy ever did. Now, how do you run a successful shop as an artist? I mean, just think about it with common sense. How does any shop or store maintain a steady customer base, do good business. One, they have a lot of products. You cannot go in a store that has empty shelves and then think, what a great place, I'm going to come back. You know, that impression that there isn't that much here is going to last beyond the first time somebody walks in, sees the empty shelves and think, okay, well, I'll come back when there's a lot more stuff. Not going to happen. So I like to personally have at least 600 items in a shop. I aim for 1,000, but I don't put them all up right away, because the second thing that I've learned from running my own artist shops is that you should be refreshing your inventory or your wares all the time. And by that, I mean, I should be listing things every day at different times of day maybe, but you know, I can understand if somebody wants to like a really consistent one. The great thing about eBay is that they let you schedule your listings, and that isn't something that a lot of other sites have. So on a Sunday night when you're just sitting watching your shows and you've got 400 things you want to list for the next month, you could bang them all out at the same exact time, but have them scheduled so every 2 hours or something over the next month, new thing drops, new thing drops, new thing drops. And I love that. I do like running my stores and thinking about them and trying to, play that hustle. But at the same time, I have other things I need to do. And so 2 hours on a Sunday night or, a morning where I'm just taking care of the shop and getting it set for the week or the next week, having a queue of stuff come out, that relieves me from thinking about it until I have my next, queuing session. The third thing that gets a shop recurring customers is that the experience goes well, so you give good feedback and you package and ship your stuff nicely. And that one has always been kind of like not a big struggle for me, but there's times where I don't have my fancy packaging, so I default to like security envelopes, and I think that has hurt me, to be honest. I'll show you the fancy packaging I'm talking about. Nice card, Primordial Creative, a lot of space for a handwritten note, and it fits Polaroids and Instax Wide and Instax Minis. If somebody's a recurring buyer from me, getting this is going to be like their little shot of dopamine, because now there's like an actual association, a visual, sensory association with buying a thing from me. And the handwritten note, of course, makes you feel like you're not just some nobody to them. My buyers are special to me. When my employment in a regular day job is always in flux, I have to have people collecting my artwork. I don't do a lot of freelance. I don't particularly like freelance. I find it's not really like worth the agony, and the money's never as much as it should be. But selling artworks I make, particularly things that are very old, because I do sell a lot of stuff that I did in like 2010, 2011, 2012, when I worked with a particular set of models in the what we call the Tumblr era, like your Hattie Watsons and your Olive Glasses and Mosh and so on and so forth. That means a lot to me. It proves to me that all this effort that I've put in over the years has value, and that things that I did a long time ago still have value and meaning, and that I've built a recurring income stream. It wasn't just a waste of time. I think everything we do as creatives needs to pay off one way or another. It might not have to be monetarily, but if you have the asset, you need to keep it in circulation, much like a band reissues old albums over and over and over, and they have special editions, and they have t-shirts and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So a lot of products, well organized, and new stuff coming in all the time, good customer service, and making your selling experience feel special. Those things will get you pretty far in whatever kind of art shop you end up having. That you can queue things in advance. Also, that when I open my store and I use the coupon feature, I realized, you know what, Etsy does have a lot of big fees for subtitles and promotions and all this other stuff. All you have to do is initially price your item pretty high and then run sales all the time for what you think it's actually going to sell. That's no different than when you buy some like headphones on Amazon. It says they're $100, but here's a coupon and it's on sale and you can get it for $30, you know? Does anyone ever buy the headphones for $100? I don't know. Maybe never. Do they buy a lot of them at $30 because they're getting a great value? Of course they do. And I think that way too when I see something that has, you know, a big discount on it. So you can always price high enough to deal with the fees, the shipping, the packaging, all the other stuff you have to deal with, and then just run discounts. Or you can send coupons to your repeat customers, and you can have subscribers, you know, that get a discount for subscribing to your store. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can benefit people who are repeat customers to you while maintaining this facade of a high price just to deal with Etsy fees. Believe me, if you're selling things in bulk and people are buying, instead of buying like 1 Instax wide from me, they're buying 4 or 5. By having people that come and buy things from you frequently, and they buy a lot of things, that's kind of like the support that most people doing a creative thing need. They don't need 10,000 people buying things from them once. They need those 1,000 true fans that are recurring customers. Long story short, I'm having a good time on eBay now. Maybe in a year from now, I'll do a video why I closed my eBay store. Now, I know there's a lot of people who are advocates for just opening a store on their own where there are no rules and there's no third-party involvement that takes, you know, money from your pocket whenever you make a transaction. I haven't found any of that to be really useful for my case. I would rather use something like an eBay or even a YouTube to have the opportunity to reach people who aren't like a rabid fan of me on Instagram or something else, because I've just never achieved that. You know, I have fans, but long story short, I think for me and what I do, it has been easier and more profitable to utilize whatever is the larger platform available, like YouTube, like eBay, like Etsy in the past. And I've been able to get more money that way, in the same sense that a lot of people who create things find that maybe their family doesn't even watch the movie they made or listen to the music they made. I've made music specifically for my own children and not been able to get them to listen to it. I mean, my ex-wife didn't even look at my photographs. So for whatever reason, people who are total strangers and who come to me because they have an interest in art model photography are more willing to spend their money, and probably through like a little sense of security, because you know you have recourse if you get something wrong on eBay. As a buyer, it's just worked out better for me, and I actually think most people will find it's the same. If you're a reseller of any kind, look into the cost of a basic store and then think about what it's like to have no overhead other than your internet, inventory, space in your home. And I found that the cost of the basic store on a monthly recurring basis is very reasonable, especially when compared to doing it for free for the first 200 listings, then paying the 35 cents for each additional listings. That adds up to like the cost of the basic store anyways, super quick. Happy to hear your own experiences as a creative on eBay. Best of luck to you in your own creative endeavors. Talk to you next time.